Why is this feeling of not being enough? Where is it coming from?
A, capitalism, B, consumerism. Right from the addiction of substance, addiction of behavior, there is a need, an immense need to really think about it. We horribilize boredom and dullness in life to an extent that we kept on looking for more. And that's where we started messing up. That because of free time, there is a boredom. Now to fill that boredom, we have to make up things. Because with dopamine, you cannot live in the present. See, our brain is largely designed for 24 hours. We are not good at 10 years or 20 years.
Really? That is
No.
so contrary to how
No.
we are expected to plan life. Post-liberalization, 1991. That's when India witnessed a huge change. We were suddenly showered with a lot of options, and abundance became a norm. Marketing slogans like "Ye dil mange more," "Aha," remember it? These were all singing the tune of what our cultural fabric was getting weaved for. Now, until this feeling of wanting more was being used for pushing the envelope, for dreaming for a better life, for a better version of ourselves, everything was good. But very soon, greed replaced need. And that's where the problem started. I am Tanvi Joshi, a fellow learner and your host on our brand new podcast called Meet Me Halfway. Today is a topic of prime importance because we are all facing it at very different levels, honestly. This feeling of not feeling enough, this feeling of not having enough, it's a trap and it's very unsettling. Not a good feeling, right? But we need to find some solution to this. We need to crack the hell out of this because if we've created it, then we can definitely get out of it. And to discuss this, we have a very senior psychologist with us. A lot of you guys will already know her through a lot of podcasts that she's been a part of. She's also president, research and development of Shamchi Ai Foundation. Please go onto the website, check out the phenomenal work, ground level work that has been done. But today, the topic of discussion is why don't we feel enough? I want all of us to get out of this trap. The fact that you've clicked on this video, I know you want to get out of it too. Welcome everybody and let's get started. Dr. Shirisha Sathe, thank you so much for coming on this show.
It's my pleasure, Tanvi.
And most importantly, thank you so much for meeting us halfway.
My pleasure.
Let's get started with the main problem of today's times and generations. Why is this feeling of not being enough? Where is it coming from?
As you rightly said in the introduction, that post 1990, the way things have, I won't say evolved, but changed dramatically and drastically, that's where is the source of this not enough.
Right.
One slogan that was like very emphatically said was that you can do it.
Yeah.
We didn't even realize when it translated into therefore you should do it. You have to do it. You ought to do it. Okay? And that's where, as you said, aspirations turned into some kind of a compulsion.
Right.
Wherein what constitutes good life was being decided, stated by A, capitalism, B, consumerism.
Right.
Okay, and then it was a chase, constant chase, and wanting more. Now, wanting more, if that is the script, then obviously not enough is bound to be the outcome of that. There cannot be any other outcome of wanting more.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't have enough, there is never an enough mindset, then it's not being good enough.
Right.
Then that applies to every walk of life,
Right.
every domain of life. That's how it started.
Right.
And yes, right now there is a need, an immense need to really think about it, because somewhere we have been changing healthy world into addictogenic world. Okay, addiction of substance, addiction of behavior,
Yeah.
and probably we are leaving healthy world lot behind. Okay, and lot of studies and their findings show us that in most of the wealthy countries, depression and anxiety and mental health is at a stake. Now it is so contradictory to what we are trying to chase and what we are trying to pursue and the real outcome. Otherwise, ideally, it should be other way around.
Yeah.
The happiness scale should be improving and growing day by day.
Absolutely.
If that's what we are chasing, right? So there is something fundamentally going wrong, and that is the need to. That is why we need to understand what's happening and why it's happening the way it's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. So let us go to the basics. Okay. So currently, life is harder in a very weird way.
Okay.
Okay, because basic needs are taken care of. Okay, for which like everything that is needed to be alive is taken care of.
Right.
Okay, right from the resources to the safety and security. Okay, now that is taken care of.
It's hygiene, you're saying. Right.
Now we have lot of free time. Now lot of free time, we don't have anything which is essential. We don't have to do anything which is essential for us to be alive. There is lot of free time. Now free time is again associated with boredom.
Right.
Okay, as I said, it's stressful in a very weird way that because of free time there is a boredom. Now to fill that boredom we have to make up things,
True.
because according to the laws of evolution and the biology and the survival need of any species, there is nothing that we need to struggle for or strive for. Now we have to make up stuff. Now that stuff has to be to make the life interesting. Then how do I really set the criteria for interesting life? That's where capitalism and
Right.
consumerism
And
came
social
in.
media
And social
showing-
media, of course.
yeah.
Social media has like
Yeah.
become a kind of spray and pray kind of phenomena. But then that's where these things stepped in. And then we started deciding what constitutes good life. And that too in terms of obviously the materialistic. Because how do we otherwise fill that time gap,
Right.
which otherwise has nothing to do but
Yeah.
a boredom?
Yeah.
So that's how it started. So we started saying things like you need to have passion, you need to have achievements, you need to have excitement in your life has to be happening, otherwise it's so dull, it's
Right.
so boring.
Yes.
So we horribilized boredom and dullness in life to an extent that we kept on looking for more and more and more. Okay, and that's where we started messing up with certain mechanisms in brain which were designed A for scarcity and B for a threat that we constantly have, threat to our survival that we constantly had from the surrounding, because we as a species are least equipped for self-protection. So all those fears and all those life-saving responses like fight, flight, freeze and all those things. So that was the situation around us, that was the environment, that was the world that we were living in
Right.
for good 40 lakh years at least.
Right.
Okay, and we really had to struggle for these two things, and that's where the mechanism came into place. So it was in place right from day one of our existence on this planet. Okay, now we no more live in that world.
Right.
we have created, it's like unprecedented wealth, unprecedented freedom, technological and medical advancement.
Yeah.
So where is the scarcity?
Right.
That mechanism is still there in our brain, hardwired for the world that we were a part of. And now we have changed the world so drastically and so dramatically. And that's where the
Shift is
issue has started.
But how we obviously can't solve for no scarcity. We can't solve for that. That is something that
Exactly.
we have worked very hard for.
Exactly.
So in a scenario like that,
Correct.
how do you acknowledge and identify that I'm running away from boredom because of XYZ reasons? How do you come to terms with the fact that
Correct.
you are struggling with something?
Correct. So right now we know that this is what we are doing to ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there is a need to really do the course correction.
Yeah.
Otherwise it would be really what we are seeing today now. As I said, like in most of the wealthy countries, the mental health is going for a toss. Like in our country also, we are seeing that to a great level. Aggression, violence, depression, suicides, you name it, and we are facing that issue.
Yes.
Okay. So that is something that we need to understand. So when I talk about brain, let us understand one fundamental mechanism.
Sure.
Now again, whatever that I'm sharing right now is an outcome of lot many researchers in neuroscience, and lot of neuroscientists, neurobiologists have taken this as a mission to give this information to common public so that they are more aware and they make their choices more insightfully.
Got it.
Okay. So my job is probably of a courier.
No, it's more than that today.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
So one thing that we need to understand is that pleasure and pain in our brain is processed at the same spot, in the same area.
In the brain.
In the brain.
Okay.
Okay. It is co-located in the brain.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And it is not always a seesaw. What happens is now pleasure and pain, the way we understand it now, that's not what is meant by it, but the way we experienced it when we were even ape men, when we were in Stone Age.
Okay.
That's the pleasure and pain, what I'm talking about right now, for which this mechanism is fitted. So see, if there is a fluid depletion in my body, there is a pain.
Right.
Okay. Now I need water or fluid to replace it.
Okay.
Okay. Because my survival is threatened.
Right.
Now I need to move in the direction of water, to go in search of water and start drinking it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this requires some motivation.
Right.
And that motivation is triggered by a chemical called dopamine, which we are well aware of. Okay. So dopamine is not actually a chemical of happiness or pleasure. It is actually necessary for the motivation, and it is secreted in anticipation of pleasure. So when I would get water, then that experience is pleasurable. Now when I say pleasurable, it's not pleasure, but
Understood.
it is more about my survival.
Right.
Okay. So the dopamine will get secreted, that will motivate me to
get
go
up
in
and go.
search of water, have it. Now there is a pleasure because the fluid is replaced in my body.
Right.
Okay. And now the brain will try to come to the equilibrium. The brain always tries to come to equilibrium, which is called as state of homeostasis.
Okay.
So brain will try to come to equilibrium, for which it has to regulate dopamine
Okay.
secretion. So the dopamine secretion is reduced. Now all of us have a set point, basal level of that dopamine.
Which is standard or it's different for
No,
different people?
it's different for different people.
Okay.
A, it depends on your genetic blueprint, and B, it depends on your experiences.
Oh.
But all of us have some set point.
Okay.
Okay. So the secretion of dopamine is reduced to the level where we reach the set point. That's what the brain is always trying to do. Now, after all these basic needs are taken care of, and the way we started making up stories, creating narratives of how to make life interesting, we started creating some abundance. Substances, and also certain behaviors and the experiences.
So when there wasn't enough stimulation for the body to move and do something, to achieve something for basic survival, that's when
we created these stories.
Okay, understood.
Money is the biggest story that we created, where the whole world believes in it now.
Yeah.
Okay. And I always am surprised that we as species lived through all the difficult times during the evolution for 40 lakh good years without the story of money.
Yeah.
And now
So
we
true.
think that we cannot survive without money.
it.
So, see, these are the stories that we started creating.
Right.
And that's how we started creating an interesting life, so to say, because now we don't have to worry about basic
needs. That makes sense.
Okay. Now, after 1990, as you said, we created not only abundance, but also an access to all these things. Okay. So, it's
Easy access.
Yeah. And abundance. Freedom to have that access. Then may it be wealth, may it be substance, or may it be certain behaviors which are addictive. Okay. So we created that. Now what happens is, if I'm bored, I'm feeling low, then I have an easy access to this. So, and once that experience is stored in my memory as pleasurable, obviously dopamine is going to get secreted.
Right.
Okay. But now with the substance and the abundance, what happened was there was a dopamine surge. Okay.
More than needed.
More than needed. Now, if it is more than needed, then the brain has to down-regulate it to reach to the state of equilibrium.
Right.
Now, it got down-regulated. It went little beyond the basal line.
Right.
Beyond the set point, below the set point. Now, again, I have easy access.
So I'll do the next thing.
Because I cannot tolerate this state.
Correct.
So I have to. Now, earlier also, this was the state, but we never had that access. We never had that abundance. So we learned to deal with that boredom and that low state of mind. And it wasn't horribleized, awfulized in any way. Doing nothing wasn't horribleized in any way.
Right.
Having a monotonous life wasn't catastrophized in any way.
Yeah.
So we used to. But then these three things started. A, nature, where there is a genetic set point.
Right.
Then nurture, where we had all these substances and all these access to behaviors. And C, neighborhood, which is about the access.
Wow, that is really
So
interesting.
nature, nurture and neighborhood. So my chase for happiness continued. Excitement and pleasure continued. And more is the chase for happiness or pleasure, more is the down regulation of dopamine. The dopamine which has helped us to be alive, okay, to create more safer world, more convenient and comfortable world, because all those innovations, all those explorations, everything, the challenges that we had taken, everything was because of dopamine.
Right.
So it has helped us to survive and grow and make all those advancements, because of which we reached the stage where we were safer and we had ample resources. So dopamine has done a great job as far as our journey all throughout the evolution is concerned. But now
It's going off.
it's going off. That entire dopaminergic cycle is like the reward cycle is going for a toss because the brain is not able to reach to the equilibrium and more down regulation. So we are actually in search of pleasure and we are landing up more in state of pain.
Oh, right. Right.
And that's the cycle that we got locked in. Now
And
this
it's
is
a trap.
addictive
It's
cycle.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. So this is how we are like now looking for more, because once the novelty is lost, dopamine secretion reduces. So now I need something more novel. And that's how even the products on social media are designed. They take care of 4 things. One is, as I said, access.
Yeah.
Second is the content, which is so voluminous. Like even for a simple thing like YouTube, if you are watching something, there is a playlist.
Yeah.
Okay? So the content is so voluminous.
Yeah.
This wasn't the situation earlier.
Absolutely.
Because even if you go and watch a movie, it ends.
Yeah.
If you are reading a book, it ends. If you are reading a newspaper, it ends. Now, the brain requires a stop clue to divert itself. Now, these products see to it that there is no stop clue,
Absolutely.
and the content is like the volume of that content is like unfathomable. So, that is one thing. So, access, content, then the potency. Look at all that content where it's like highly potent. It's not about any dull routine life, nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right from the music to the stories to everything, it has to be. And people don't mind even if they are sick and full of pathos. So these are the stories which are getting lot of hits,
Yeah.
So third is the potency.
Yeah.
Then fourth is the novelty. That is required for dopamine, because when the novelty goes down, dopamine secretion goes down. Again we feel low, again we feel dull, and then again if we have to come up.
Right.
So in search of pleasure, we have landed into more pain. And that's the mechanism which is there, which is hardwired. Okay? Now from 1990, or even if we take these advancements and something like for 200 years also, if we look at the evolution and the timeline of evolution, then it is just a blink of an eyelid.
So true.
Brain is not going to change so fast.
So fast.
I don't know how many lakhs of years it would take to change, to adapt to a kind of world of abundance and overindulgence. We have
So
no
our
clue.
dopamine is trained for scarcity.
The entire system, pleasure pain mechanism, is designed for scarcity and threat. It was never for abundance, never for safety. That's where the things have started falling apart. Now, when it comes to pleasure, good experiences, positive experiences, feeling of well-being, there are other chemicals also which are responsible. Okay, like serotonin, oxytocin, which is known as chemical of bonding or love,
Right.
love hormone, or beta endorphins. There are other chemicals also.
Right.
So, there is one book, beautiful book, Molecule of More.
Okay.
Okay. If possible, I'll try and tell the names of the author. I'm not remembering it right now, but Molecule of More, where they have been talking about 2 types of chemicals. One are the up chemical, which is dopamine,
Okay.
and others are the down chemicals,
Okay.
which is like serotonin, oxytocin, beta endorphin. The
and when
ones
you say
that
down, you mean?
so they don't ask you to go for more,
Okay.
but they help you to remain in present
Okay.
and seek pleasure out of that moment.
Oh, okay.
Say, for example, when it's romantic love, it's dopamine. Because you want to chase, you want to meet more, you want to
Right.
have more, everything. But compassionate love is more about serotonin, oxytocin, bonding,
Got it.
stability, and enjoying every moment of it, and seeking small pleasures out of it, which is a natural phenomenon. So there are up chemicals and there are down chemicals.
Right.
Now with dopamine, what is happening is, as I said, it's an up chemical.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we started doing is, the way we started creating these narratives, we started creating that idea of a pleasure which lies somewhere in the future. Okay. Now, if that lies in the future, then I have to chase it. Now,
Yeah.
if I am too much into the future, which is fantasy, which is imagination,
Totally.
when the fact is only the present.
Yeah.
Now, if I am creating a narrative that pleasure lies somewhere after you get this, which is just a story, just a fantasy, just an imagination, we have no clue whether it would be the truth or not. And right now, things are so uncertain. So, when we start chasing this, because of dopamine, we lose contact with the present. Then the phenomena of dissociation, where we daydream, we fantasize something, these are just going away from that. And then there is a respite of the stress,
Right.
the sadness, and the unpleasantness that I have because not having something, the pain of not having it, and there is an immediate respite which lies in the future, not present.
Just the thought of having it.
So this is how we created the stories, and then we started entirely depending on dopamine and stopped nurturing anything
That
That
lets
is-
us live in the present.
because with dopamine you cannot live in the present, because as
Wow.
I said, dopamine is secreted
Anticipation.
in anticipation of pleasure.
Right.
Now that anticipation, if we are creating a story, how can you remain in present?
Yeah.
And the other down chemicals that I talked about are more about this. So this is what we have been doing. So if we really want to what I can say, summarize, so dopamine, which is an up chemical, so wanting more, so motivation,
Right.
then because of which we made a lot of progress, exploration, what I can say, romantic love, everything that we have done so far,
Yeah.
and we have been experiencing so far. So it also motivates us to take efforts
Right.
whenever we have some set goals, aspirations
Right.
about certain things. So it is also helpful in taking those efforts. Because
Right.
of that motivation, we don't mind working hard
Yeah.
if we have set some goals. Okay, but what has happened in that bargain is we have lost focus on the process, because the narrative we have set is, if you reach here, then you will be happy.
Right.
We have stopped even looking at the pain of in that process. Okay, it's working hard, it's painful, and then saying to yourself that I'm here, happy that I'm capable of doing such a hard work, and it's a hard work. So pain is actually pathway to pleasure. So that pain, which was there till almost the last generation, I would say, or even when my generation was growing, it was there.
Right.
Because you would never get what you wanted, when you wanted, the way you wanted. You were deprived of so many things. And that was the everyday pain that everyone experienced. Yet we learned to deal with it, live with it, and not to horribilize that, because that was the truth, or that was the fact, or that was the environment all around us. So we never had to horribilize. We always said, fair enough, iske paas ye nahi hai, uske paas ye nahi. It's okay. So we never had that. So we started, what I can say, indirectly we started focusing more on present, and more on the process.
I think that must have also helped until that generation to learn to prioritize.
Exactly.
What is important and what is
Yeah.
it that I can keep for later or not have. It's okay.
Exactly, because market never told them what good life is.
Right.
It was their own choice and their own decision and their own aspiration. And so they were ready to work hard for it. It wasn't fueled in them
Yeah.
like a fantasy. So they were focused more in the present and more on the process of striving towards something that you really want to achieve, which wasn't determined by somebody else. It wasn't hira hai sada ke liye. No, that wasn't the idea.
Yeah.
So there wasn't an idea of perfect life. There wasn't an idea of perfect relationship.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I
So
think.
the idea was life is imperfect.
Yeah.
Life is monotonous. Life is reasonably boring. It's hard to live. And
That's
there's
how
no
it is.
problem if you work hard to live better. Period. Now this narrative, we have left it
Behind.
behind.
Yeah.
And that is where we are
Yeah.
stuck now.
Because I feel like in almost all age groups, there is this sense of urgency. जाना कहाँ है पता नहीं है. Urgency बहुत है. I want to get somewhere. I've not done this. I've not done that. And every age group now, I can see it.
Exactly.
But I do remember my uncles and aunts sitting down at a family gathering and saying, "कर लिया, अच्छा किया.
Correct.
We've done our responsibility well." I don't
Exactly.
hear people now saying these things.
Because as I said, it is
Yeah.
all based on this dopaminergic
Yeah.
reward cycle. Unless and until we shift. Because dopamine is not going to give you stability.
Absolutely.
It is always going to put you on toes. It is not going to give you stability. It is not going to help you to maintain long-lasting relationship. Because the moment the novelty is lost,
You want something else.
you want something else. Now to have a family. Now it's not all that hype pleasure that you get out of having a family. It's about responsibilities, it's about problems, but it's also about that love and the connect that you experience.
Right.
So if you are after this dopamine chase or the chasing that kind of a pleasure, then you don't want to even go for a family.
Yeah. Which is happening now. That
Because there is no
explains.
excitement in that. And it doesn't ensure, or it doesn't, not ensure, but it doesn't guarantee
Yeah.
the kind of pleasure that has been told to you is the real pleasure. So actually pleasure is a very reflexive phenomena. In pleasure as an experience is a very reflexive psychological phenomena as a reflection to pain. That's why I said pain is the pathway to pleasure.
Right.
Unless and until you experience pain and then you do something, there is no possibility of you experiencing a pleasure.
Yeah. Want more, that's why I'm not feeling enough. That explains.
Exactly. So this is what the balance is tripping now. And that's where we are finding it difficult. Therefore more depression, more anxiety, because anxiety and boredom hang out together. Boredom always creates anxiety, because what do I do now? Because in boredom you face yourself, right? And now
Yeah.
I'm scared. If I'm not liking certain things, if I'm getting stressed out of doing something which I don't feel like, I'm feeling overwhelmed by those experiences. But then how do I say that to myself? Because I have been told that if you want to lead a real, pleasurable, happy life, then it has to be exciting, it has to be happening, it has to be full of all those, what I can say, materialistic things.
Yeah.
how do I really then admit that that's not my real self? Because then you are looked down upon,
Yeah.
that what a kind of a person you
Yeah.
are, that you don't have aspirations, you don't want to chase anything.
Yeah.
So having enough mindset, if that's not the norm, wanting more is the norm, then having enough mindset is like you're odd one out.
Yeah. And look down upon.
Look
More
down.
than just all
Look
ones.
down upon.
That is the sad part.
So satisfaction with life, feeling of well-being, we are not even talking about these things these days.
I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
so this is where
And then retreats are becoming a source of finding that respite for some time. That is,
exactly.
it's sad.
That's again just the respite.
Yeah.
So rather than restoring that balance, we are again finding out
something new.
something new, some respite. So going on the same path.
Correct.
Now we are not going to find balanced, happy life, which is like what I can say, adaptive, resilient balance. We are not going to find that if we continue on the same path.
Correct.
वो स्टेशन उस पे आता ही नहीं है.
Right. हो गया जाके वहाँ पे. Yeah, you're not finding what you want.
No.
Right.
So if we want to really reach that adaptive balance of pleasure and pain, where we are resilient enough, then we need to really turn around now.
Right.
U-turn ही लेना पड़ेगा, दूसरा रास्ता ही लेना पड़ेगा. We will have to do the course correction. We cannot keep on going on in the same direction.
Yeah.
So we will have to take that U-turn. We will have to do the course correction and then start looking for, and that's easily possible. All we have to do is turn our mindset towards that.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I thought that I need to explain this
Yeah.
neuroscience behind it,
Yeah.
because that is the mechanism that is in place inside our skull.
Right. And it's standard for everybody. We
Yeah,
are
yeah,
all
yeah,
experiencing it. Right.
As a species, it has been designed as a species.
Right.
It hasn't designed for the uniqueness in every individual.
Right.
No. So that's where we need to find out that adaptive balance. So we cannot be in search of more potency now. So this is where I think we need to look at now, that we have to stop looking for more potency. We have to stop looking for more novelty. We have to stop looking for abundance. Okay, then we'll be able to come to a stage where we'll be able to reset this pleasure pain balance.
Right.
Okay, now that would involve certain things, which means now we will have to pursue some pain. See, pursuing happiness is a lot easier than pursuing
Absolutely.
pain.
Correct.
Okay.
It's like getting up and going to the gym.
Yeah. So exercising is pursuing pain because that's painful.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Now studying hard for the examination and really doing something which is boring, which is uninteresting, and still doing it, that's very hard. But easier way is to check for the mobile,
Yeah.
go to the smartphone, use the screen, and then enjoy that moment. Actually, we are not even enjoying that.
Yeah.
We are doing it out of compulsion
Yeah.
because we don't have anything else to live that low.
Correct.
So we have stopped experiencing pleasure out of these things long back. And that's again, as I said, that's the reason why we are designing something more and more
Right.
drastic, more and more dramatic, more and more novel, no matter how sick it is, no matter how pathological it is, no matter how it's going to damage us in long run. So we will have to. So exercising, yes, as you rightly said, it's pursuing pain. Okay, in like there is one theory, not I would say theory, but an approach that taking ice cold bath is also something which people do
Yeah.
really think about as pursuing pain out of it. Another thing, more than pursuing pain, which is different, but which is more related to these down chemicals, is social connect. The real connect. See, about social connect, what we have done is with this screen and these social medias, what we have done is virtual in the virtual world, the connect that we see has more potency.
Right.
Okay, the moment you post something, there are likes, then that gives you a message that you are always heard.
Yeah.
You are always noticed,
Yeah.
which is not the case. And you don't have to be heard or noticed all the time by all the people around you or by the world around you. No, that's not necessary. That's not something which our earlier generation aspired for.
Yeah.
They were okay.
In fact, it was better to be low-key than being out there.
Yeah, that's the way we have drugified even the social connect. That it has to be potent, okay? That it has to be plentiful. Facebook पे 5,000 friends hai, but I don't have a friend
Who I can call.
to keep my pet if I want to go out for 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more about having those plentiful.
Yes.
Third aspect is we have what I can say taken out the ambiguity, uncertainty, awkwardness, okay, and complexity. We have made it so okay. Fair enough. I don't like your comment. I don't want to really connect with you. I block you. That's not how it can happen in real life.
Yeah. When you're sitting face to face, you don't tell people, get out, I don't want to talk to you.
Exactly. You cannot.
So true.
So it is complex. It is awkward at times. We do experience messy emotions, but it's okay to experience those messy emotions. It doesn't have to be of high potency. It can be just being together and doing something mundane.
Yeah.
Doing something or just being together. You are doing your own stuff, I'm doing my own stuff, and this is just we are together in one space. That's it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all that. What I can say, the potency wasn't an expectation out of being together. Okay. So that is how we drugified even the social connect. Actually, that is something which we are naturally prone to for simple things like we as species were ill-equipped for self-protection. Right? So we started living in groups.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are social not by choice but by force. So we have natural tendency to connect well socially, which is actually an adaptive phenomena. A for survival, B for procreation, and C for efficient use of resources.
Correct.
So we have a natural adaptive capacity for social connection. Now if we drugify that too by virtual world, then we are losing out on that as well. So it's not just pursuing pain, but it also is about nurturing a real social connect in a real world which we are capable of. And it involves all these things, as I said. So unless and until you go through awkward situation, unless and until you experience messy emotions, how is your emotional muscle going to get built?
True.
And with that, unless and until you have a better emotional muscle, how will you sustain in your relationship, at your workplace? So even from the workplace, it's boring. It's monotonous. I'm doing the same thing. I want to create an impact. Where is this coming from? So I need to have something exciting. In relationship or at work, I need to be a better version of myself. No.
Just be.
Work was simple about doing something with your hands, some skills
that will help you get
with
food.
people, and that will help you to have bread on your dinner table. Period. That was the only expectation out of work. Okay. With relations, with the family, the expectation that you lead a stable, reasonably happy life with all its hardships, with all its stresses,
Yeah.
which we can endure anyways. So enduring stress and boredom is something which we are constantly trying to avoid
Absolutely. All the time.
all the time. So how will you sustain in a relationship for a longer time? At workplace for a longer time? Because stability, according to you, is monotonous, nothing exciting.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
So these are the things which I think we need to reset, and we really need to revisit these ideas of good life, where we are constantly chasing something. We also have, as I said, we have these down chemicals also,
Yeah.
which help us to be in present, to seek small pleasures and small happinesses which are there. Like you are traveling, you see a florist and you see a beautiful rose. That's one moment. That doesn't generate dopamine.
But you still feel good.
You feel good. And that is where serotonin, oxytocin, all these things come into play. So it is not about excitement.
It need not be.
It need not be. It's
Contrary
just
to how
that
it is said.
experience, which is very small and which doesn't tip off this balance of pleasure and pain.
When this balance is getting tipped, what happens to these other serotonin and they're just lying dormant, and
Yeah.
my question is
Yeah.
that there must be a shelf life to all these, right?
No, but then brain keeps on secreting it, but then our choices are not in alignment
Yeah, right.
with that mechanism. Na? So oxytocin is bonding, chemical of love or a hormone of love, which helps us to bond. But to bond together, we need to have some sharing, some common platform of understanding, some physical proximity, some real life experiences,
Right.
which are here and now, which are not about future.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we are experiencing depression, anxiety to this extent. Because two needs that all the human beings have is to belong and to be significant. Now, those are not getting fulfilled because you are not aligning your choices. For you to feel belong, oxytocin has to be secreted.
Right.
Serotonin has to be secreted for you to have a stable relationship and stability in life. So if your choices are not aligned with that, then brain keeps on secreting it, but as I said, only necessary for that. But then that's the reason why, despite having this, and that's what the researchers and the surveys are telling us, that all the wealthy countries are experiencing more of depression, more of anxiety, more mental health problem. And the poor countries have, because of now the access and the abundance, are drawn towards these things. They
Right.
don't have possibilities of good jobs and plenty of resources, but they definitely have an access to these things. They have an access to addictive substances. They have access to addictive behavior.
Okay. Got it.
So, even for the poor countries, it's going on a toss because of the access. As I said, nature, nurture, and neighborhood.
Neighborhood. Yeah.
So, nurture is about what you have, and neighborhood is about the access. So, they don't have access to good life in that sense, where they have access to good nutritional food, they have access to good jobs, nothing, but they have access to these things.
Right. In fact, sometimes wanting to get your life back on track feels a bigger struggle than getting access to these things.
Exactly. That's why I said that we have changed this world from healthy world to addictogenic world. Because we are constantly chasing something. We are not pressing a pause button at any point of a time. We are not living in present, which is the only truth actually. which is the only fact, rather than the fantasy and imagination. So, I think if we are able to make these choices, press a pause button, look for real life connect, look for better social connect, learn to tolerate boredom and stress. You don't have to go for, you don't immediately have to have a respite out of that. And then regulate some practices and pursuing pain in terms of...
At least articulating the idea of pursuing pain, being normal, is important.
Yeah. Because then you are bound to experience pleasure, because that is a reflexive psychological response to pain. That's body's natural way of responding to pain.
How are you seeing this are you seeing the reflection of this differently in different age groups? Because you're in close connect with all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Do you see
so,
this?
One thing is with the older generation, they are not able to make sense of what's happening
Right.
to the younger generations. Midlife, people are still into that, chasing something and wanting to really define themselves, their self-worth, they being good enough in terms of their, being worth it in terms of their achievements, mostly set in terms of materialistic.
Sure.
Okay, what you can buy. Because we are looking at economic empowerment as ability to buy. We are not looking at it as an ability to say no.
True.
So they are not coming from the sense of empowerment, but they are more about deficit space. So I have these deficits in my life, now I have to
do something.
So that tomorrow I'll reach somewhere where I'll be able to have a peaceful and a pleasurable life, which is a fantasy. If you are not able to live better life today, there is no possibility that you would lead a better life tomorrow as well.
And even if you do reach that goal, there will be the next one waiting for you.
Exactly. So this people, especially in midlife, are still chasing that.
Right.
They are creating that abundance and accessibility. As I said, unprecedented wealth, unprecedented freedom, and technological and medical advances. That's what the younger generation is growing with.
Right. So
they have no clue.
They have no clue.
And that's the reason why they are drawn to more substances and more such behaviors, right from watching porn.
Right.
It's more, porn is nothing but more about abundance, more about novelty, more about potency.
Right.
And of course having an easy access because of the device that we have. So I always feel that even if we put a reverse gear and go to that time frame where smartphones did not exist, I think we still will be a lot better. And that is possible. Technology is going to be our partner in our life no matter what.
Right.
But now this younger generation will have to learn and acquire the skill to use technology to their advantage, not to their disadvantage. Right now they are using technology to their disadvantage. So either they are into substance or they are into behavior. Because otherwise that low is not getting lifted in any way. Now the only way to experience that pleasure with dopamine is high. So younger generation right now is really going through a very tough time, and it's dangerous in that sense. If we look at the future, there's one neurobiologist at Stanford University, and she has written a book called Dopamination.
Okay.
And in which she explains this entire phenomenon of pleasure and pain and how they are co-located, everything in such a beautiful way, in a very thorough scientific way. So we can see where this future generation is headed. And it's really very, what I can say, scary. And I think it's high time that we all, like all the older generations and also the midlife people who are in their 50s, 40s also, they need to pause. What kind of a world they are going to really create, leave behind for their children, where they are like unlikely to thrive, because these things are not meant for thriving. They are just
there's no sustainability in that.
No, they don't help human beings to thrive. See, what happens in these kind of things is, what you feel as an act of freedom is actually losing a freedom at every step.
Agree.
Your ideas or your ways of seeking pleasure or your areas of seeking pleasure keep on narrowing it down. And that we can see happening even right now.
Yeah.
With affluent class or what I can say, higher middle class, the entire idea of pleasure is about traveling, shopping,
great food,
going to great food,
yeah.
great food, shopping, traveling, and like using the resources,
exploiting,
right word, exploiting the resources like never before, because they are always in search of excitement. Now that is something that needs to be stopped.
So what I hear is that the whole narrative of live your life a particular way needs to stop first.
Correct.
Let people decide what is their way of feeling good, feeling happy, feeling satisfied in what they're doing, which currently is obviously, we are all living a borrowed definition of a good life or success.
It is being given to you.
Yeah.
You are not arriving at your own understanding of what is it for me and how do I define it for my own self. And if you don't define it, consumer market is going to define for you.
Absolutely.
And that's what is happening.
Absolutely.
So this is high time for course correction. Otherwise the younger generation is...
I see a lot of fear in the younger generation. I had one small girl who had come over to my house, and she said her mom was complaining that, she comes back from school and for 1 hour she has to be on YouTube. She won't eat before that. And I gently spoke to her. I asked her, why do you do that? She said, you don't understand our pressures. I said, what pressure? She's 11. I was like, what pressure? She's like, if I don't know an influencer or if I don't know a YouTuber, I will not be accepted in my group. And I'm like, what is this?
Correct.
I didn't know how to think when I was 11.
Correct. And that was the natural thing.
Yeah. I think we should also stop encouraging kids speaking like adults. A lot of that is also happening.
Yeah.
She's so mature. She should not be.
No.
There's a problem.
No, actually, it's not the definition of maturity at all.
Correct.
She's so immature.
Yeah.
That's why I said, why are we horribilizing boredom? Why are we horribilizing stress? Stress has been there with human species all throughout the evolution. And we have survived it.
Yeah.
And the stressors that you have created because of the wrong definitions of good life, they need to be checked and redefined.
Right.
Not the stressors of day-to-day life. We have sustained that.
और वो होने भी चाहिए. I feel we need
that's
a
what
little
we
bit
have
of
done
that
for
also,
40 lakh years.
Right.
So we have survived that.
Yeah.
In the worst of the cases, we have survived that. In the most scarce world, we have survived. Okay, in the most threatening world, we have survived. So what's a big deal? The problem is we are making a big deal out of it.
Maybe because people don't want us to get out of that mindset, because then we'll start questioning everything.
Exactly. And unless and until we question them, unless and until we do the course correction, this pleasure-pain equilibrium is not going to get established at all. And we have messed up big time with this.
But what I also understand from you is that it's not that all is lost. You can
No.
always take a U-turn and come back.
Exactly. These are simple things, na? Even if you are bored, don't find immediate solution to that. Don't overindulge. No need. If you're bored, fair enough, you're bored.
But how does one actually bring it into practice? Because that becomes
Same
the
thing.
difficult part.
Stay away. Detox yourself out of these gadgets. As I said, technology is going to be the partner in our life, no matter what. But then it can be with the laptops. It doesn't have to be with that gadget, which is all the time available, all the time accessible.
Yeah.
कुछ नहीं होने वाला है उससे if you are not there on that. So why can't we really switch on to just that phone that didn't do much?
Just helped us connect.
That's
Make phone
it.
calls.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Make phone calls, send messages, receive messages. Period. So it was just to connect. Beyond that, what we have created is, as I said, we have drugified social connect as well in this way.
Could you tell us some symptoms of, when you said like when the dopamine goes below the set point? How should we identify कि अच्छा ये हो रहा है, so it's just time to stop?
Lack of motivation. Total lack of motivation. You have set objectives, you have set the goals, you want to do it, but total lack of motivation. You really have to push yourself to do anything. You have lost ability to seek pleasure in small things, day-to-day things. Unless and until you do something extraordinarily different and exciting and happening and challenging, you don't even feel alive. These are the symptoms.
Because
that
they are so
you're-
easily misconstrued for, I think I have depression, I think I have...
Yeah, that is an experience of depression, but that is because of down regulation of dopamine below the set point. So if you feel alive only and only when you do something extraordinarily well, you achieve something, you are constantly doing something or the other, it's exciting, all the while dramatic, and then only you feel that you are alive, that's a clear-cut sign that this pleasure-pain balance has gone for a toss.
It also explains how people will be okay to take personal loans just to fulfill a dream of international vacations or having buying big houses. So many people suffered in COVID.
Exactly.
Because they had taken such large loans and
Exactly.
jobs were gone.
Now I have to work hard.
Yeah.
Now, who told me that that is the criteria for good life?
Right.
Obviously the market. And as I said, we are behaving as if we cannot survive without money, which is a story that human beings have created. The biggest story that we have created, where the entire world believes now. And throughout the adversity, we survived as a species without this story.
So not feeling enough is a
Symptom.
Literally.
It's a symptom of an illness where pleasure-pain balance has gone for a toss.
Wow.
So it's a sickness.
It's not the end output of something that we are doing.
No.
It is the stimulus actually. And when you look at it like that, then suddenly you can put a finger to what is happening inside.
Exactly.
And you can just rationalize all your decisions.
Exactly. And make day-to-day choices in a different way. See, our brain is largely designed for 24 hours. We are not good at 10 years or 20 years.
Really? That is so contrary to how we are expected to plan life.
We have another area in brain in our forehead called as prefrontal cortex, which does all the executive functions in our life. Okay, so that is about futuristic thinking. But if we live too much in that prefrontal cortex, then that's what we are doing to ourselves.
Not
Otherwise,
the
the
present.
basic brain for which it is hardwired is designed only for 24 hours. So living in present moment is not an armchair philosophy. It is a choice that we need to make in order to reset this adaptive, healthy, resilient balance.
And let the other, like the oxytocin and serotonin, let them also do their
Exactly,
job.
because these are the choices. If you connect with each
Yeah,
other,
right.
okay, in real life, if you are there for each other when things are not good, when things are okay, if you are able to seek pleasure out of simple things, that you have cooked something and the aroma of that, enough.
Yeah. It does happen when you clear up a corner of your house on your own.
You feel so
You
good.
just feel good. It's true.
But now, if we are buying services to do that, then we are depriving ourselves of these simple pleasures which we were capable of.
Yeah. And which were helping that to set that equilibrium also.
Exactly.
So technically we are just trying to go against what naturally needs to happen.
Exactly. And that's body's natural response. So we are capable of that. Only thing is we need to.
I think even if one generation takes this up, everything will get back in place.
Exactly.
It's not
So,
it's not
no.
that we need to look towards the younger generation to take this bait, and anybody can do it.
Exactly. So if we have a scientific temperament and align our choices, resetting this is very much a possibility.
How much of a role does sitting, reflecting, thinking about your choices and all of that also play in this?
Essential.
Very essential.
Essential. And you get that time, actually.
You use that free time in doing this rather than
Exactly. And that's what people are scared of. What if they find something
yeah.
undesirable in them? Some choice that they want to make which is not okay according to.
Right.
So, not good enough. For whom? So, rather than being scared, just be with yourself. Examine whatever that you find within yourself, embrace yourself with that, accept yourself with that,
yeah.
and then arrive at what constitutes good life for me. That's enough.
Yeah. Difficult, but
Possible.
definitely sounds possible.
Possible.
Definitely. Because at least for me, it sounds like if it is something that's happening scientifically in the brain, chemically, then it can be reversed as well.
Exactly.
Like any other sickness, I take the right medication and I get better.
Exactly.
Similarly, this anxiety and this restlessness that leads us to this feeling can be completely reversed and taken care of.
Exactly. Simple thing like increasing your tolerance to boredom and stress.
That could be the first step. Absolutely.
So for every weekend, you don't have to find something.
Yeah.
Go out and spend your time in
Yeah.
an exciting manner.
Yeah. Just relax. Yeah.
Just relax, be there at home, do household chores,
Yeah.
cook something. And as I said, that's something which is for that you will work for some time.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into it. You plan, you look at preferences, there's
Exactly.
mental, emotional, all kind of involvement that happens.
Everything.
And those are the days you don't want to do much.
Exactly.
After that.
Exactly. Because you are
You're
so
just happy, yeah, you're
content
content.
with whatever that you have done.
There's just one more thing I wanted to discuss with you, which is this whole thing of, I think there is this whole feeling that I have that words like complacency and feeling content are used very interchangeably. Can you help us understand how the two are different?
Again, that's what I said. Complacency again is in the context of what you can do and therefore you should do. So unless and until you change that framework, complacency will not exist. If you change that framework, complacency word itself will not exist.
But is it bad to feel complacent?
Not at all. As I said, complacent
Yeah, it gets
makes
eliminated
sense.
as the
That term itself makes sense in the context of wanting more.
Right.
If you take out that wanting more, then this word has no
Meaning.
place, no meaning whatsoever.
Yes.
Then what remains is content.
Wow, that is absolutely true.
It will become redundant if you change the entire framework.
Never thought of it like that. Because complacency, almost in the corporate culture, complacency has become a bad word.
Like,
How can you feel-
world is about capitalism and consumerism.
Yeah.
So how can it really ask you to pause,
Yeah.
check for yourself, have enough mindset, be contented with the life, be satisfied with life? No, the idea is to tell you again and again
You
to
need
be
more.
contented and to be satisfied with your life is the most horrible thing you are doing to yourself.
Yeah.
So complacency, it will lose its place.
Existence.
It will lose its existence
Yes.
itself. If we redefine.
Yeah. In that light, absolutely. I think it's just about people changing the language for themselves, for their emotions, for their needs. You just need to change the narrative will change if the words change.
Exactly.
We are just using the wrong words,
Wrong
and
words.
that's why the narrative is wrong.
Exactly. Say for an workaholic, I have to work. That's not the truth. It's my belief that I have to work.
Yeah.
So the fact is, it's my belief.
Yeah.
It's not the fact.
Yeah. Nobody is whole. Technically, nobody will come and
So
shoot
as
you if
you
you
said
don't.
just now, if I change it from that, I have to work hard, I have to achieve this, I can say that it's my belief that I have to.
Yeah. Correct. There is a change of tonality also when we are just narrating these two sentences. Yeah.
That it's my belief that I have to. Then fair enough, then enjoy the process. Then don't focus on the outcome. Outcome is bound to be there. It may be desirable, it may not be undesirable, it may not be desirable. It may not be the one that you expected or wanted to be, but still it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. It's yours.
It's yours and still it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Fear of failure, fear of regret.
So, in simple words, if we start embracing imperfect life and accept ourselves as imperfect human beings,
It's taken care of. Fair enough. Anything that you would like to add? Some things that you want us to know?
not
Or
really.
some myths that you want to bust which were left out in this conversation? I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Some of the words that I get to hear most of the times in my consulting is I overthink. Okay. Now that's a myth.
Is it?
Yeah, because adult brain is capable of at least thinking 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. We are not even exploring our entire ability to think. And we are talking about overthinking. So that's a myth. Stop using that word. What we call as overthinking is actually the ruminating and repetitive thought pattern, which doesn't lead us to any solution.
Right.
And so it gets exhausting to us. And that's what we label as overthinking. So actually it's not overthinking. It's more about ruminating repetitive thought pattern not leading to any solution. So it's like walking on a treadmill. Okay, that you walk on a treadmill for half an hour, so the time has gone, energy has gone, and if I ask you, where are you? You're still there where
Right.
you were. So those thoughts which are like walking on a treadmill are the ones we label as overthinking. So that's a myth. And another thing which is used in rampant is narcissism.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So the story of Narcissus and narcissism as a clinically significant entity in the world of mental health are two different things.
Really?
So everything, see, when it comes to mental health, all the symptoms that are told for any disorder, okay, are the symptoms which we have experienced sometime or the other,
Correct.
apart from hallucinations and delusions.
Correct.
Otherwise, most of the emotional, like, swing of emotions, okay, now that's something which we experience. That need not be termed as bipolarity. Bipolar as a clinically significant entity has much to it than just going through some phases, which even we go on day-to-day life, from depression to feeling
absolutely.
elated.
Sometimes in the same day.
Yeah. Sometime within an hour also.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's not about bipolarity. That's not about narcissism. So narcissism is, again, as I said, some of the features that are talked about when it comes to narcissistic personality. All of us are into self-love at times. All of us get into a conversation where it's my way or highway. Sometimes though it's not healthy, but these features need not be labeled as narcissism. That's one word which is used. It's not relevant to today's topic,
No,
but then these are the myths
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
we need to stop using these words.
I think there's also a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves when we say, oh, I'm an overthinker.
Yeah.
So anything I think, it'll first start from that premise that,
Correct.
oh, I am an overthinker, तो मैं सोच रही हूँ गलत ही होगा या ज़्यादा ही होगा.
ज़्यादा ही होगा. ज़्यादा कैसे, हम हमारी थिंकिंग की पूरी कैपेसिटी भी यूटिलाइज
Use
नहीं
नहीं कर
करते.
रहे. Right.
Not even 50% of it. Overthink कैसे करेंगे? Not possible. I'm very sensitive. Okay, actually being sensitive is a very positive term. When people say I'm very sensitive, actually they are telling us that I'm easily disturbable.
So true. Yeah.
It's not being sensitive.
You're just putting out
Sensitive is
information.
more about whether I'm aware of my emotions. Okay. Who controls whom? Whether my emotions control me or I control my emotions. Third is, am I able to express my emotions in a better way?
Right.
Fourth is, am I aware of the other person's emotions? And fifth is, am I able to respond to other person's emotions in a better way? This is being sensitive.
Right.
It's not about being easily disturbable.
True.
So,
And one last one on positive thinking. I really think there is too much happening around. Please think positively. I don't know what that means. If there is
positive, like normally it's like everything will be all right. Think positively. No, everything is not going to be all right.
Yeah.
Positive doesn't mean self-deceptive.
Correct. Yeah, we're becoming delusional in the whole
Exactly, it's
narrative
very
of positive.
deceptive. Everything is not going to be all right all the time. No, some things are going to go wrong. Sometimes to somewhat extent, and it's not going to be the end of the world.
Right.
So positive thinking, think realistically. And the common example is glass is half filled and pessimistic and optimistic. Reality is glass is half filled and half empty. Together makes a reality.
Yeah. Also, it depends on, if you're thirsty, it's half full, you have water to drink.
Exactly. And
Simple.
also then you need to know that it's only half full. So
You will get
I
only
need
that
to
much.
drink sip by sip.
Yeah.
I just cannot gulp
Gulp
it.
True.
So think more realistically. And anyways, human beings create stories, right? As I said.
Yeah.
So create the stories which are based on facts, which are rational, and above all, which are helpful.
Right.
Why create certain stories? I overthink, this is what I do, I'm so sensitive, so I keep up. So,
In this whole thing of trying to correct our mental health, we are, I think, giving it exactly opposite stimulus.
correct. Wrong things done with right intention.
Yeah. I think these times are filled with this. This is
Correct. parenting, wrong things done with right intention.
Absolutely. Any aspect, even relationships, everything is
Correct.
showing that.
And people keep on justifying and building up their case based on how well-meaning they are and what intention. Okay, but then what about the choice that you have made? Is it in alignment with your intention?
Yeah.
So दिल्ली जाना है तो चेन्नई के ट्रेन में बैठ के कैसे चलेगा?
Correct.
नहीं चलेगा.
Amazing. This was great. Thank you so much. The intention of this episode was to just get all my fellow learners and me to start thinking about why do we feel restless despite working so hard to achieve our dreams. Why does it feel like uska dream is better? मैंने ये क्यों नहीं सोचा? मैंने वो क्यों नहीं किया? I just want all of us to start thinking. Of course, this topic itself is deep as we can go. We can sit here for 5 hours and discuss it more. But today's intention was to just touch upon the relevant things and help us understand what exactly happens scientifically, because I believe that if I have a vision of what's happening inside of me, I will be able to control it better.
Correct.
And that's what we got, and a lot more than that. So thank you so much again. And I hope I see you soon.
Yeah. Pleasure is all mine, Night.
Thank you so much. I hope you found this video useful. Firstly, thank you for taking the time out to watch this video to make your life better. Thank you for sharing this video with somebody who you think needs it. And I'm really waiting to meet you halfway in the next episode. See you soon.